Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Shares of IndusInd Bank plummet after it reveals a 2,000 crore rupee pre-tax hit due to incorrect derivative accounting. Stock records the biggest single-day fall, wiping out 20,000 crore rupees in market cap.
And I don't think there are any hidden skeletons in the cupboard, and we are not hiding any losses, or we are not hiding anything from the investors.
The CEO of IndusInd Bank terms the accounting lapse a one-off, says there are no hidden skeletons in the cupboard, pledges to turn in a profit in Q4 after absorbing the estimated hit of 1,500 crore rupees. That's an exclusive. Morgan Stanley's Rhythm Desai says relative valuations of Indian stocks are attractive, sees the current uncertain environment as a good time to invest for high long-term returns. Sensex and Nifty end flat after a range-bound session. Government is reconsidering the exemption granted to UPI and RuPay card payments from merchant discount rate. Sources say MDR is the only revenue model for online payments and merchants will not be allowed to pass on the cost to consumers. Bharti Airtel joins hands with Elon Musk's SpaceX to bring Starlink satellite internet services to India. The deal is subject to regulatory approvals, which remain a key hurdle for Musk to launch Starlink in India. Tesla shares mark the longest losing streak since its Nasdaq debut in 2010. The EV maker has lost nearly half of its market cap since founder Elon Musk joined the Trump administration. Musk tells Fox News that he's managing to run his business while fulfilling his role at the White House with great difficulty. A U.S. Embassy spokesperson tells CNBC-TV18 that the Trump administration is seeking a grand deal with India and no sector is off the table. Adds that Trump's reciprocal tariff plan intends to bring back fairness to trade relationships. Defense Ministry is looking at all options to scale up the depleting squadron strength of the Indian Air Force, even as it awaits 12 Tejas aircraft to be delivered this year. Defense Secretary R.K. Singh also says that the government will move towards more competitive bidding to ensure greater role for private sector in defense contracts. More than 400 people are being held hostage in Pakistan after armed militants attack a train. The separatist Baloch Liberation Army, which has been waging a years-long insurgency in Pakistan, claims responsibility for this attack. 13 of the world's 20 most polluted cities in 2024 are located in India, as per a report by Switzerland-based air quality monitoring company. Barnihat, a small industrial town located in Meghalaya, close to the Assam border, is the world's most polluted city. Delhi comes in at second. Well, let's begin with a look at the day's trading action. The Sensex ended a range-bound session marginally in the red. The Nifty managed to end barely in the green. The mid-caps fared better, with the index gaining over 300 points. Financial stocks declined in trade, with the Nifty Bank index ending 360 points in the red. Well, speaking of markets, Rhythm Desai of Morgan Stanley believes that India's policy environment is far more certain than the rest of the world. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, he said that Indian markets will outperform the world at large, adding that retail investors will not give up on Indian equities.
India's policy environment today is far more certain than the rest of the world put together, whether it's US, Europe or China. So you want to buy this policy certainty, and I think investors will buy it. Our retail investors get it, and I suspect that February may have been record inflows. And a lot of people have been quizzing me about when will retail give up, and I've got tired of saying this, they won't.
Well, here's the big story this evening. Shares of IndusInd Bank took a pounding in trade after the bank revealed a 2,000 crore rupee pre-tax loss due to incorrect derivative accounting. The bank's market capitalization saw a dramatic decline of 20,000 crore rupees, marking the biggest intraday fall in the bank's history. IndusInd Bank's price-to-book ratio slipped to its lowest level in nearly 5 years. In its disclosure, the bank said that it found the accounting discrepancy in September to October period of last year. This issue will impact over 2% of the bank's net worth, but the management is confident that the issue will not impact overall growth or business prospects. The bank CEO, Sumant Katpalia, in an exclusive conversation with CNBC-TV18, said that they did not report the anomaly earlier as they were not aware of the quantum of the hit. Take a look.
We found this anomaly around October, and that is where we started our internal assessment, as well as we hired an external agency. At that point of time, we did not know the difference, and we knew that there were two deals getting accounted incorrectly, but there's so many deals in that, so we did not know the real impact. And I think as soon as we got to know the impact, we held a board meeting and we informed our board and we did the disclosure.
Okay. No, is it, in your analyst call, you said that this practice of differential accounting by the ALM department and the Treasury is about 5 to 7 years. Then how come you got to know of it now? Is it that the amounts were very small in the initial years, but the amount you lost because of premature withdrawal of deposit was higher in 23-24, and so it became a larger number? Is that why you missed it in the earlier years?
No, not at all. I think it is spread over 7 to 8 years, like we said, and it came over a period of time. So there's no 1 year which will show the blip. I think it was evenly spread out over a period of time, as and when you do the premature withdrawal and the early termination of the deals created that impact.
And when did you appoint the external agency?
October 24th.
Okay, but you could have told the investors at that time you wouldn't appoint an external agency unless it was a somewhat sizable problem. You didn't know it was 1,000 crores or more than that.
The external agency was appointed, No, it was not, the number was not known. Lata, let me repeat it again. I think the external agency was appointed because we were not sure, and they were appointed for two specific purposes. Once, to understand the derivative accounting, and second, we are going into the new version of the Treasury backend system, which is collapsed, to understand the processes and restate our processes to make sure that we are in compliance with everything.
Well, the CEO of IndusInd Bank also termed the accounting lapse a one-off. He said that there are no hidden skeletons in the cupboard. He pledges to turn to profit in Q4 after absorbing the estimated hit of 1,500 crore rupees.
The full year will not be a loss at all. And I think the quarter 4 itself also will be a profit. After taking this into account, if we have to. Because
Okay. Why do you say if we have to take into, I would assume you have to take it into account in Q4, right?
No, I'm just saying let the amount crystallize, ma'am. I'm still not aware of the full amount. I think it will be this amount. I'm 99.9% sure. I think we will absorb this loss in this quarter itself.
And how soon could the board meet, Mr. Katpalia, to discuss, the next steps when you talk about succession planning? And then will you be considered as one of the candidates for the potential CEO that will be submitted to RBI? What is your understanding?
That is very difficult for me to project. What I can say right now is that I have a 1-year tenure. I have a lot of work to do. I think the bank has to get back on its feet and show on quarter 1 that where it stands compared to the peers. We have to get back a profitability, and I think be consistent and get back the trust of the investors as well as the depositors.
When I checked with some of the bigger banks, they hedge their ALM book with external parties. Is this common practice to hedge the book with your own trading company, with your own trading unit?
Now we hedge it with an external party effective April 1, 24. I think we were giving it to an internal desk because they were going to the external party, and that is where the two hedges, we stopped that practice effective April 24.
While you say the bank will still report a profit, there may be some decline in NII. I just wanted to understand, even with Tier 1 at 15% plus after this incident, given that the final impact is still not known, you're still conducting that external review, would you rule out the fact that the bank may need to look at raising capital, or is that something that the bank may have to consider in the coming quarter?
I don't think the bank will need capital for the next 4 quarters. We do an assessment every 6 months, and I think as of now, we believe we are well capitalized and we should be able to manage our business. Of course, there will be a loss of CET1 because of this. Because we have a profit, it may not be a loss, but I think we should be able to manage the business.
Well, IndusInd Bank promoter Ashok Hinduja said that he became aware of the accounting issue only after the bank disclosed it, but he assured to support the bank and its management and also promised to infuse capital if required.
Provided all the correspondences, anything whichever their queries were there have been answered. Now it is left to the regulator as and when they think proper to provide. And once we get the approval, we will immediately increase and put injection of the capital into the bank as and when they require.
Well, Ritu Singh now joins us to help us understand the timeline of the discrepancies and its impact on the bank. Ritu, a tough situation that the bank finds itself in. What do the next couple of quarters look like for the bank?
From discrepancies in its derivatives portfolio to leadership uncertainties, things have not been quite right with IndusInd Bank of late, leading to the stock crashing 27% in trade, erasing more than 20,000 crores of investor wealth in just today's trading session. At the center of the issue is the bank's derivative portfolio, where IndusInd Bank had been hedging foreign currency borrowings and deposits internally instead of with external counterparties, a practice it had followed for the last 5 to 7 years. However, the bank said after RBI September 2023 circular, which became effective in April 2024, the bank realized that these trades were not properly validated, leading to the discrepancies. Now, the management estimates a potential hit to the extent of 2.35% of the net worth, which is about 1580 crore rupees. They've hired an external agency to review the matter and are expecting the final numbers by March or April this year. But the bigger issue here has been trust and credibility, because it's a near 6-month delay in disclosing that has raised some serious questions. Investors are also wary of the timeline of events, because if you see, first you had the CFO resign in January, just ahead of the third quarter numbers, then the CEO Sumant Katpalia receiving only a 1-year extension despite the board asking for a 3-year term for him, and now the current issue. Also, it was under Sumant Katpalia's tenure that we saw the tech glitch in the microfinance subsidiary, which had led to nearly 84,000 loans being disbursed without customer consent. So brokerages believe these developments point to deeper concerns over the bank's internal processes and compliance. You had CEO Sumant Katpalia even acknowledging that RBI's awareness of these discrepancies could have played a role in his shortened tenure, and that he believes RBI may be uncomfortable with his leadership, adding that the board is now going to evaluate both internal and external candidates for the CEO role. Now, brokerages see a downside risk from the event, and they've cut the target price of the stock by 20 to 25% because they believe the bank's credibility is at stake and that rebuilding trust is going to take some time.
Right, Ritu, thanks a lot for that. Now, life insurance premiums declined by as much as 12% in February when compared to last year. LIC took the biggest hit in its premium, plunged over 20%, followed by SBI Life. However, private insurers fared better, with premiums rising 3% year-on-year in February. HDFC Life led the charge with a 24% rise in premiums. And Ahmedabad hospitals and nursing homes have suspended cashless services for Star Health and Tata AIG general insurance policy holders from the 1st of April. This means that patients covered under these insurers' policies will need to pay for medical expenses upfront and claim reimbursements later from next month. The suspension comes after growing concerns over non-transparent pricing policies and one-sided blacklisting of hospitals. Hospitals have claimed that delayed and reduced payments made it increasingly difficult to continue offering cashless services. And Bharti Airtel has signed an agreement with Elon Musk's SpaceX to bring Starlink high-speed satellite internet services to India. The agreement is subject to necessary regulatory approvals. Both the companies will explore offering Starlink services via Airtel to business customers, opportunities to connect schools and health centers. Well, speaking of that venture here in India, the Director General of Cellular Operations Association in India, or COAI, Lieutenant General Dr. S.P. Kochhar, has said that Elon Musk's Starlink must adapt to India's framework. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Kochhar said that Starlink can be successful if it covers areas that Indian players cannot reach.
He has to work within the ecosystem of the Indian framework. If he follows the framework and he feels that he can benefit the country, and the government feels that this will bring benefits to the country in segments which the terrestrial players can't go to, then it'll happen. It's not a question of whether he can do it or not. It's a question of environment. Environment created will dictate whether it will be successful or not.
Well, the sell-off on Wall Street worsened after US President Donald Trump refused to rule out the possibility that his tariffs could trigger a recession in the world's biggest economy. The sell-off has wiped out $4 trillion from the S&P 500's peak last month. The index registered its biggest daily percentage decline since December. The longest losing streak for Tesla since its Nasdaq debut also continued. The Elon Musk-led company stock crashed over 15% on Monday to record its worst day in more than 4 years. The company lost $125 billion in market cap in one day as a result of this sell-off. Tesla shares have now plunged 45% since the beginning of this year. In an interview with Fox, the world's richest person said that he has been running his 6 businesses, including Tesla, with great difficulty.
Marching against the Teslas, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean...
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient.
Well, so what's weighing on Tesla's stock? Well, the EV major has seen sales decline in Europe and China as well as the United States. Tesla showrooms and charging stations have been damaged in a series of attacks on EVs across the United States and Europe. The possibility of a waning demand has also concerned investors. This after Tesla takedown protests urging consumers to shed their Teslas erupted in the US. However, Musk assured investors that the company's long-term prospects remain strong in a post on X. US President Donald Trump also showed support to his ally, promising to buy a Tesla. On a post on Truth Social, he also accused the left of attacking Musk by illegally and collusively boycotting Tesla. Well, speaking of the Trump administration, it has sought a grand trade deal with India and no sector is off the table. Answering CNBC-TV18's query, the spokesperson of the US Embassy has said that President Trump's plan is to bring down tariff levels that India currently has. Trump has also been aiming to ensure that there is a correction of the long-standing imbalances in international trade and to bring back fairness to USA's trade relationships. Now, meanwhile, the Indian government is considering incentives to boost exports, which may have been hurt by global uncertainties and Trump's tariff threats. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the centre will take a decision on this move within a month's time. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is also set to visit the United States for further trade talks. Now, a high-powered committee of the Indian Air Force, headed by the Defence Secretary R.K. Singh, has identified key areas for modernisation of the Air Force. In a report, the Indian Air Force has listed out key priorities to achieve short, medium and long-term goals in an optimal manner. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Defence Secretary R.K. Singh said that the ministry is looking at all options to scale up the depleting squadron strength of the Indian Air Force. He added that while the Air Force could get 12 Tejas aircraft this year, other options are also being looked at to meet operational requirements. Singh also said that the government will move towards more competitive bidding process to ensure greater role for the private sector in defence contracts.
I think it's not a secret that their their squadron strengths has been depleting, and we need to do something about that. So one part is already out and clear, which is that the Tejas production line is hopefully will stabilize now that the engine issues have largely been sorted out. Of course, we will look at other options also to ensure that any capability gaps are offset or neutralized in the shortest time frame possible. We need to move beyond it to competitive bidding. That applies not only to the Air Force, but to other procurements in the defense sector. That process will, to the extent possible, wherever private capacities are available, and there are good capacities in areas like land systems, artillery, certain types of munitions and small arms. All of these areas, we would expect that the processes should, even shipbuilding to some extent, we should try to follow competitive procedures to ensure proper price discovery and more economical use of public money.
And coming up on India Business Hour, a deep dive into Maharashtra's budget and why the government was forced to do a balancing act due to lack of fiscal headroom. And you can also catch all CNBC TV18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, and Geo Hotstar. Well, the government is reconsidering the exemption granted to UPI and RuPay cards payments from merchant discount rate. Merchant discount rate, or MDR, is the fee charged by payment processors to businesses for each transaction made using a debit or a credit card. Sapna Das now joins us with more details. Sapna, give us a sense. What are your sources telling you?
Hello. Hi. Yeah.
Yes, Sapna, we can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. So basically, all of this is at a very preliminary stage. And I think what the government has in mind is to try and work out a best case scenario that, whether it would be appropriate to bring back the merchant discount rate, because that appears to be one of the most workable revenue models for online payments, particularly, digital transactions. And this, of course, targets the UPI in a big way, because that is the big network that we're talking about at the moment. In terms of the data that has come out, like somewhere around 18,000 crore transactions, that's the way the UPI has mushroomed over the last 4 to 5 odd years. So if you recall, way back in 2020, the MDR charges had been done away for UPI as well as for the RuPay cards. Now, there is a two-pronged, thought process here. One, of course, is that possibly MDR is one of the best revenue models, or the only revenue model for the digital ecosystem to keep growing, because some capital is also required for investment. So that's one thought process. And the second, of course, is the fact that, there is already an MDR on your private card networks like Visa and MasterCard. So why keep the exemption going on for the RuPay cards? So that's the second thought process. But I think more important than all of this, finally, whatever decision the government takes, the government on one aspect is extremely clear. And that is basically that whether the MDR comes back or in what shape it does, or which are those, merchants, what are the threshold levels that they'll be targeting, or what is going to be the MDR rate, irrespective of all this, government is very clear on one aspect, that is basically you and me don't have to pay for the MDR. That's something that the merchant will not be able to pass on to the consumers. Now, how they'll be able to do that is something that we'll have to wait and watch and see. This is all at a preliminary stage right now, but there's a serious rethink going on within government circles to bring back MDR.
Right, Sapna, thanks a lot for that update. So a key decision there awaited from the government. Moving ahead now, a passenger train in Pakistan carrying around 500 people was hijacked by militants in the Balochistan province. The Balochistan Liberation Army that claimed the militants opened fire on the Jafar Express. They added that the insurgents took 182 hostages and 11 Pakistani military personnel had been killed. The separatist group also threatened to execute all hostages if security forces don't retreat. Now, the government introduced the Immigration and Foreigners Bill in Parliament today. The bill seeks to control immigration procedures and introduce stricter penalties on foreigners who violate entry and stay conditions. The Congress party opposed this bill, arguing that the law could be used to deny entry to those who go against the ruling dispensation. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Mauritius for his 2-day visit to the nation. He was received at the airport by Mauritian Prime Minister Naveen Ramgoolam. PM Modi will be attending the country's 57th National Day celebrations, where he is the chief guest. 13 of the world's 20 most polluted cities in 2024 are located in India. This, according to a report by a Switzerland-based air quality monitoring company. Bernihat, a small industrial town located in Meghalaya, close to the Assam border, tops the list, while Delhi is at number 2. Meanwhile, the report by Switzerland's IQ Air said that Delhi remains the most polluted capital city globally. Well, from Delhi to Maharashtra now. The Maharashtra government tabled its first budget yesterday. It failed to deliver on the promise of increasing monthly allowance to women. Several taxes have been hiked to shore up revenue as the government struggles to contain the debt burden and keep fiscal deficit in check. Santya Gora is joining us now for more on Maharashtra's finances and the balancing act in the budget. Santya, tell us why Does the Maharashtra government find itself doing a tightrope walk when it comes to these finances?
The Mahayuti government in Maharashtra is attempting a tightrope walk with this budget due to the fiscal distress caused by various schemes announced ahead of the elections. The fiscal challenge is evident. The state government has put pre-poll promises like the farm loan waiver and an increase in payouts under the Ladki Bahin scheme from 1,500 rupees to 2,100 rupees per month on hold. The allocation for the Ladki Bahin scheme has also been reduced from 46,000 crore rupees to 36,000 crore rupees. Additionally, the government has scrapped Uddhav Thackeray's Shiv Bhojan scheme, which cost 14 crore rupees. No major new schemes or projects were announced in this budget. Maharashtra's gross state domestic product, GSDP, is estimated at over 49 lakh crore rupees. This has helped keep the debt burden under control. In a budget exceeding 7 lakh crore rupees, the fiscal deficit stands at 1.36 lakh crore rupees, while the state's debt has reached an all-time high of 9.3 lakh crore rupees, 10% higher than last year. This is largely attributed to pre-poll schemes. As per fiscal responsibility rules mandated by the RBI, state fiscal deficit should be within 3% of the GSDP and debt should not exceed 25% of GSDP. With this budget, Maharashtra's fiscal deficit is at 2.76% of its GSDP, while the state's debt stands at 18% of the GSDP. Despite a difficult fiscal year, Maharashtra remains among the top 5 states with a debt to GSDP ratio within the 25% limit, all thanks to the high state GDP. The government has also increased the motor vehicle tax on CNG and PNG vehicles by 1% and imposed a 6% tax on EVs costing over 30 lakh rupees. However, this is just the fiscal side of things. Experts believe the government has taken a calculated political risk. Key poll promises like the farm loan waiver and the Ladki Bahin scheme increment have been put on hold for now, though the government continues to assure beneficiaries that these commitments will be fulfilled. In the meantime, this approach has bought the government time to restore fiscal discipline before any major elections.
Right, Santya, thanks a lot for that. But that's all the time that we have. It's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. The news and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV 18.